All right, I'm here. I'm here. I had to go share it and put my thumbnail from my computer because when I try to do that on my phone, it always disconnects me. So, what we're doing tonight, I'm trying to get my numbers up. That's why I'm using the cell phone. I came outside to the truck so that way I won't lose the signal. And I recorded everything. So, this is about 45 minutes, something like this. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to compare ALLSTAR Junior's case, even though it's federal, but I wanted to compare it to a state case in Illinois, in Chicago, that I was familiar with, where essentially very similar details, this over a little bit more, take place. So let me go ahead and start this, and then we can talk along the way. All right, good evening, everybody. I want to cover these two cases and what the difference will mean and come out to be in these two cases. Both of the offenders went back and stood over their victims after being attacked by their victim. The one on the right, his victim died. The one on the left, his lived. Let's see what the difference is going to be. The one on the right has already been charged, prosecuted, and is doing his time. So let's check this out. All right, so yesterday I showed y'all document number 3. So let me just show y'all the other ones real quick here. Document number 2 was filed also on April 17th, which was the government's motion to seal it until the defendant was arrested. And as we saw on document number 3, it was granted. And then after he was arrested, that's when it became open, unsealed. They just didn't go back and mark it. Texas has a way. I mean, I had to do 2 extra days because they got the date wrong as to when I was actually locked up. That type of thing. It just is what it is. Because we got hoes for judges. All right, so here's the criminal complaint for Jeremy Christopher Ford, a.k.a. ALLSTAR Jr. I'm just going to call him whatever I want to call him. And this was done on April 17th of 2026. Now, again, it does look funny because it looks like they filled in the blanks. But this is an official document because you can see all the information up here. Okay? Here's the official signatures of the judge. The whole 9 yards. Now, this first part is an affidavit from the special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigations. It's their resume. I don't feel like we need to read her resume or their resume. So we're going to jump down to number 2. It says this affidavit is made in support of a criminal complaint charging Jeremy Christopher Ford, a.k.a. ALLSTAR Jr., with a violation of Title 18 United States Code 922G1 and 924A8. That is felony in possession of a firearm. Okay? Now, if we come over here and we look up the G1, it shall be unlawful for any person who has been convicted of any court of a crime punishable by an imprisonment for a term exceeding more than 1 year. That's what that is. So we come back over here. That's what this one is, okay? This person says, this special agent, I am familiar with the information contained in this affidavit based upon the investigation I have personally conducted in my conversations with other law enforcement officers that were involved in this investigation. But I'm not giving up all the facts, just the ones that we need to give up to secure this warrant. Now, the probable cause. It says, the FBI Houston Violent Crime Task Force is investigating Ford for a violation of the 922G1 and 924A8 occurring on or about April the 8th, 2026 in Houston, Texas, which is the day my channel got hijacked, y'all. So I guess I'll never be forgetting that date. It says it took place in the Southern District of Texas. The incident was captured on video by security cameras as detailed below. On April the 8th of 2026 at approximately 11:23 p.m., officers with the Houston Police Department, HPD, which is Harris County, responded to a shooting in progress at a restaurant located on Kirby Drive in Houston, Texas. Upon arrival, officers observed an individual identified for purposes of this affidavit as John Doe number 1 on the ground inside the restaurant with a gunshot wound to his neck. Officers also observed a trail of blood leading from the main dining room to the elevator and a large pool of blood in the elevator itself. The blood trail continued into the parking garage where officers observed another individual identified for the purposes of this affidavit as John Doe number 2 with multiple gunshot wounds to his hand and leg. Now, John Doe number 1 and John Doe number 2 were transported to hospitals by Houston Fire Department. The suspect, subsequently identified as Ford, fled the scene before the police arrived. Well, of course he did. It's not even a percent of a percentile. 1% of 1% that actually stick around and says it was me. But sometimes it do happen. At the scene, officers located and recovered a black Glock 43X handgun bearing that serial number and the magazine, and a black firearm holster with blood on it. 10 fired 9mm shell casings with blood on them, and 2 fired bullet projectiles with blood on them, and bullet fragments with blood on them. The evidence was tagged at HPD property room. God bless Texas. We got to make sure it says blood on everything. Number 7, officers retrieved videos of the incident via security camera footage provided by the restaurant staff and provided copies to the FBI. Upon reviewing this footage, I observed Ford at a table in the restaurant with a female. Ford and the female get up from the table and walk out of frame towards the elevators. Ford then re-enters the frame and appears to be talking on the phone. A group of individuals follow behind Ford. The group begins to crowd around Ford and appears to be talking to him, leading to an altercation that prompts an unknown male to get between the group and pull Ford away towards the elevators. Ford can be seen in the shirt with the LV on the back. Nobody's asking you, Bird. As this happens, John Doe 1 and another individual, identified for the purposes of this affidavit as John Doe number 3, walked into the restaurant and followed quickly towards where Ford exited the frame, along with others in the group. The group then re-enters the frame, and Ford can be seen struggling with John Doe number 3 and John Doe number 1, who appear to be trying to remove Ford's necklace. John Doe number 2 joins in and helps John Doe number 3 and John Doe number 1. So we got 3 on 1 at this point. Girl didn't take off her stilettos and beat nobody in the head, apparently. John Doe number 3 removes Ford's necklace and rushes out of the restaurant. The struggle continues, and John Doe number 2 appears to remove Ford's watch and put it in his pocket. Well, since y'all know who all these Johns are, y'all gonna make him get his shit back? I'm just asking. Number 9. Ford and John Doe number 1 began fighting, and John Doe number 2 and others in the group join in. At some point, what appears to be a handgun falls to the floor from someone in the altercation. Ford then falls to the floor near where the handgun fell. Ford picks up the handgun and begins firing at everyone as everyone starts running. John Doe number 1 appears to have been shot and immediately collapses to the floor, initially on his side before rolling over to his back. Which I guess this is John Doe number 1. It's John Wick. Okay. John Doe number 2 and others run out of frame toward the elevator. Ford continues shooting at everyone as everyone is running away and shoots additional rounds in John Doe number 2's direction as Ford follows outside the frame towards the elevator. I'm just trying to see where the guy's laying down at. Number 11. Ford returns to where John Doe 1 is lying motionless on his back and fires another 2 rounds at John Doe 1. From a few feet away, John Doe's number 1's body jolts suddenly as 1 round appears to strike him before going motionless again. Ford paces around the floor for approximately 8 seconds as the female he was with attempts to interact with him. Ford then fires another round in John Doe number 1's direction and exits the frame towards the elevators. Approximately 20 seconds later, Ford returns to the frame, still holding the handgun. Ford points the handgun at John Doe number 1, who appears to still be unconscious on the floor. Ford appears to attempt to fire another round at John Doe number 1, but the handgun slide appears locked back, indicating it is out of ammunition. Now, I won't do no good to zoom in because they got stuff so blurred out. Ford then stands over John Doe 1 and strikes John Doe number 1 in the face with the handgun. Upon doing so, the handgun falls to the floor behind Ford. Ford walks back, picks up the handgun, returns to John Doe number 1, and appears to spit on him. Ford then exits the frame before returning briefly and exiting again toward the elevators. I can say that was all adrenaline, him coming back and forth, mad for something that he did not expect to happen. Another camera angle shows individuals running into the elevator during the shooting. Prior to the doors closing, John Doe number 2 can be seen rushing into the elevator and collapsing inside as blood sprays from his leg. Shortly after the doors close, Ford can be seen walking into the frame, holding the handgun. Ford walks around briefly by the elevator before exiting the frame back towards the restaurant. A third camera angle shows Ford appear to wipe down the handgun before placing it on a shelf or counter behind what appears to be a hostess stand. I bet he would have shit a brick if this NASA guy would have just came alive and said, "What are you doing, son?" I'm just saying. That's what I thought. We got security, 5-0 in the house. Ford ultimately fled the scene in a white Cadillac Escalade with unknown license plates before police arrived. The FBI believes Ford to be back in the Detroit area of Michigan. Hospital staff advised officers that John Doe number 2 had his right index finger amputated due to the gunshot wound, and that they were working to repair destroyed arteries in John Doe number 2's leg. John Doe number 1 is being treated for multiple gunshot wounds, and as of April 15th, 2026, John Doe number 1 did not have sensation in his legs due to the injuries sustained during the shooting. Well, I can say this. The few clips that I've watched, John Doe number 1 is doing very well considering what he went through. And I can say that with my dad falling and having a lower back injury and becoming paralyzed, and how that affected his entire body. And he was in a coma for 2 weeks when that happened. And even when he woke up, everything wasn't working right. This guy's sitting up getting haircuts and eating chow mein and getting on FaceTime and live and everything else. So, I'm just expressing my opinions. 18. HPD later learned a third individual was shot during the shooting and left with the non-life-threatening wounds to their buttocks. Based on the review of the video, the individuals appear to have been restaurant patrons standing in the bar area who did not take part in the fight. Following the shooting, Ford, who is also known as a rapper, ALLSTAR JR, posted multiple videos to his social media page taunting John Doe number 1 and others in the group he believes to have assaulted him. On or about April 15th of 2026, Ford recorded and posted a music video referencing the shooting at the restaurant with lyrics including "Shoot out right there in the restaurant, and now I'm 2-0. Ford appears to reenact the shooting of John Doe number 1 in the video. I reviewed Ford's criminal history and found multiple arrests and criminal charges, including a 2014 conviction of felony in the second-degree home invasion in Michigan, resulting in an 18 months imprisonment. Accordingly, Ford is prohibited from possessing a firearm in the United States. On April 16th of 2026, a representative of Glock International executed an affidavit indicating that the Glock 43X 9mm firearm are manufactured in Samaria, Georgia, and Austria. Therefore, it was traveled interstate by foreign commerce. Okay, so he's got them there on that one. Okay. So those are the charges. Now, let's get into the differences, or the details, I guess you could say. Now, since I'm playing devil's advocate here, if this crime would have taken place in Illinois, the felon in possession of a firearm is punishable up to 15 years. And if it's been one that has had more than 3 or more prior convictions, it's a minimum of 15 years. Now, let's bring attention to the paperwork, folks. He's only got 1 count. Even though it states felony in possession of a firearm and transported in interstate and foreign commerce, it's still, they're counting it only as 1 count. Now, can something happen? I don't know what, because he's locked up, so he ain't got time to do nothing else. But yeah, they can come back and supersede it if they want to. If they got something on him in the past that we, the public, don't know about, and they want to supersede him, yeah, they can do that. But as of right now, he's only got 1 count, 1 felony charge. Now, we look at the Illinois punishment. Says up to 15 years, but if he's got 3 or more, then it's a minimum of 15 years to life. But let's go look at Texas, you know, the gun state. All right, in Texas at top, it says the standard penalty is up to 10 years unless they've had 3 or more priors of violence or drug felonies, then it's a minimum 15. The one on the bottom is for the interstate commerce, which says a fine or up to 10 years or both. But let me fill you in on a little secret how I know Texas be working. Now, I don't know too much about the federal end of Texas, but on the state end of Texas, this is what you get for being a felon in possession of a firearm, typically charged with a third-degree felony punishable by 2 to 10 years. So if this were state, I can tell you that they're going to slap that 2 to 10 on both of them and let them run at the same time. Federal's not that much difference in what I've seen in other cases. I'm going to tell you right now, especially Harris County, because I was locked up. And one thing Texas likes to do, though, is when you get locked up, they do like to send you as far away bed possible. That does happen. So when they locked me up, I had to go and stay outside the outskirts of Houston. And all the girls, most of the girls in there, were coming in with 6 months sentences. I saw one girl come in 3 times, 6 month sentence on the same charge all 3 times that I was in there for, and I got the 2 years from my county. So Harris County, they don't mind that revolving door. I'm going to tell you that right now. They don't mind giving out that minimum. That's the difference on the punishments. But let's look at what else makes this guy different. Now, I went to go look at his music video that he put out after this incident happened. And he's talking about Houston PD Instagram post was beautiful. But you can see by the 2 people laying on the ground, they're reenacting the incident. Now, the police said on the news reports that they weren't sure where the weapon came from, who it belonged to. But if he's telling the truth in the lyrics of his song, then it came from the victim. And as he states, I'm going to pick it up and use it, though. So that's going to come into play if this goes to trial, that the victim brought a weapon, not the offender. The offender just picked it up and used it. Now here in his song, he's talking about the victim taking things that he doesn't deserve. He says, boy, I'm the one. That's why your lick turned into a murder. Of course, he didn't die, but the song is what it is. He made it what it to be. Now, in my opinion, this is what's going to be getting him hemmed up, is the taunting and the taunting and the taunting. Towards the end of the song, he says, quit wasting them people's power, man, unplug them. Talking about take them off life support, whatever. And then his whole squad acts like they're shooting up somebody standing over him. This is just one song. There was actually a couple of songs that was released that I saw. Plus, I saw some little Instagram video clips, things like that he released. He went and had a shirt made talking about unplug them, stuff like that. That, I believe, is going to carry more weight if this goes to trial than anything else. It's going to be the after effect taunting. Why do you say that, Godmother? Because, like I said earlier, him going back and doing the back and forth shooting, keep going back and then still trying to go back and then go back and spit on him. With a good attorney, they're going to push that off on adrenaline rush. He stepped outside of his mind for a minute because these guys were he was 3-on-1, then a gun fell, so apparently they were planning on using a gun if necessary. So I think that part of it, he's probably going to be able, like I said, if he has a good enough attorney, get that not to be such a spotlight on it. And blame it on adrenaline, temporary, insane, whatever, that type of thing. Now, like I said, I'm way more familiar with Texas State and how they handle things. I've got very little experience with the federal. I can actually say only one case that I know someone personally. And in reality, they could have got a lot worse than what they did get. They just weren't able to prove what they wanted to prove. So, but they knew it was what it was. But it's my opinion. Don't be surprised if this goes to trial, if this young man gets away with less than 15 years. And in Texas, the federal is what, 85? If the feds decide to drop it down to state will give them 50%. It's just like that. Now let's take a look into this other case that took place a few years ago out of Chicago that we're going to talk about. He has a semi-famous younger brother who was a music artist of Fredo Santana's. His name was Extendo Quando, Aquanius Catherine. He was killed December of 2017 by CPD. His family also had the Bradley sisters in it, the ones that went missing 24 years ago. Now, Extendo Quando always stuck out to me because I don't think to this day I've seen a prettier smile on a guy. It just is what it is. But the way that I was introduced to him was through the Kanika Jenkins case. Irene Roberts is the mother of his child, and he took care of his son. His name is Torres Catherine. Now, unlike his brother Extendo Quando was Front Street. Torres is from the West Side. He claimed Rolly Mob and a couple others, but you know, his clique of guys, which was J-Dub, really. Rolly Mob was the older guys, but they were tight. This is Torres today. Okay? Now, he's also a good 10 years younger or more than ALLSTAR JR. He's going up for parole in another few years in 2029. If he doesn't get it, he'll be released in 2031. His charge was second-degree murder. Unreason. I don't know. I've never seen that on there, so I don't know what that is. Which he got 20 years. And felony in possession of a weapon. It says in prison, but he didn't have the weapon in prison. So, I don't know about that. But he got 4 years from that. And let's see. Yes, they caught him in February of 2020. So that's what he's looking at. Mind you, this is not federal. This is state. But I'm going to give you the news media's storyline that they were given by CPD. And then I'm going to come back and give you what really took place.
With a deadly shooting near a CTA subway station downtown had more than 20 prior arrests.
That's just one of the details revealed today at his court hearing. Kelly Davis is live with the latest on this story. Kelly.
Hey, Ben and Lourdes, this triple shooting took place in the pedestrian tunnel underground that connects the red and the blue line trains early Monday morning. Police arrested their suspect yesterday, and today he stood before a judge. Torres Catherine appeared in bond court today, where a judge denied him bail since he's charged with first-degree murder. The 23-year-old has a long criminal history with 22 prior arrests, the most recent just last month. Police say Catherine pulled the trigger in a triple shooting around 2 a.m. Monday in the pedestrian tunnel that connects the Jackson red and blue lines in the loop. Crystal clear HD cameras captured the entire shooting. While police have not released the footage, they walked us through what happened. Police say a group of people saw Catherine on the red line. They got off at Jackson and confronted him about a stabbing attack that happened back in October. That's when police say he pulled out a gun.
The defendant is standing right under a camera that captures him turn and fire his gun repeatedly. The video shows that none of the other individuals in the pedway were attacking the defendant at the time he turned and fired.
24-year-old Edward Charleston was shot 9 times and was pronounced dead at the scene. 2 others, a 21-year-old man and 19-year-old woman, were injured. Both are still in the hospital, the man in grave condition.
There's video of this footage. It's quite shocking video. It not only shows him turning and firing at the group, but after one of the individuals go down, he walks over him and shoots into him execution style right above him.
These violent crimes have been on the rise, and Interim Superintendent Charlie Beck says he's taking this very seriously. Beck announced the Bureau of Counterterrorism's mass transit teams will patrol train lines until their comprehensive safety plan is announced next week.
I mean, it's really important to understand that if you're engaged in this kind of behavior on the CTA, I will hunt you down.
Coming up at 5:30, we will detail CPD's safety plan on the CTA, which includes adding SWAT teams to train lines. We'll also have reaction for commuters about this new plan. Reporting live in the Loop, I'm Kelly Davis, WGN News.
Kelly.
New this morning, a man will spend several years in prison for shooting and killing a 24-year-old man in a CTA subway tunnel. Torres Catherine pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and gun charges for the 2020 shooting. He was sentenced to 24 years behind bars. 2 other people were also shot but survived.
All right. So here's an article. It says 20 years for a man who killed 1 and injured 2 in a downtown Chicago subway shooting. The man accused of an execution-style shooting inside a downtown Chicago subway tunnel that left 1 dead and 2 others was handed a 20-year sentence on Thursday. Torres Catherine pled guilty to a single count of second-degree murder, a charge that was reduced from murder, according to court records. Prosecutor dropped 19 other felonies, including 14 murder counts. The only thing I can think of how they come up with something like that was just counting heads of how many people were up and down in the subway. Edward Charleston, 24, recognized Catherine as they rode a red line train to the Loop around 2 a.m. on February 17th of 2020. Catherine had threatened Charleston with a knife a few months earlier, and Charleston wanted to talk with him about it, officials said. The men exited at Jackson and Charleston, followed Catherine into a pedestrian tunnel to confront him. Inside the tunnel, Catherine turned around and started shooting at Charleston, striking him 9 times. Officials said that Catherine also shot another man and a 19-year-old woman. Catherine ran a short distance, fired more shots, and left the tunnel. He returned a few moments later. By then, Charleston had ran from the tunnel, but the other male victim was lying injured on the PDF headway floor. Prosecutors said Catherine stood over the second man and fired 2 shots at his head. Still, that victim survived. See how they get things wrong? Catherine was standing right under a camera and recorded him firing the gun, the prosecutor said during the initial court appearance. Charlie Beck, who was serving CPD's interim police superintendent, called the video quite shocking and described the shooting as execution style. When police arrested Catherine a few days later, they discovered a firearm in his waistband that investigators linked to the shooting through the lab test. Judge Nicholas Cantus accepted the state's plea deal and sentenced Catherine yesterday. Catherine's sentence will be reduced to 10 years for good behavior. He also receives 1,562 days of credit earned while in Cook County Jail. Catherine also pled guilty Thursday to possession of a weapon in prison, a charge he picked up last year while he was in jail. He was sentenced for 4 years for that.
I didn't know about that.
I remember this in real time. They made such a big deal about all his arrest. That first one is in 2014. He had an unlawful use of a weapon. Then trespassing, contact with gang members, battery trespassing. All the ones in yellow are minor offenses. Okay? In my opinion. That goes to 2016, November of 2016, from November of 2014. Then the next page, December of 2016, he failed to register as an offender for not having a gun. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of criminal trespassing to land. And that goes down to February of 2018. The top one was December of 2016. But 6 of those is trespassing to land, and the 7th one was failing to register as a gun offender. Then in 2019, he got criminal damage to property less than 500. Certain transactions prohibited. I don't know what that is. Possession of a controlled substance, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in October of 2019. We're going to come back to that. Same possession with a controlled substance, criminal trespass to vehicles, and then the murder one in 2020. Now, going back to the October 14th of 2019, that's the issue. Like I said, I remember this all in real time. And in October of 2019, he was arrested with a deadly weapon, which was a knife. Because his victim and his little crew homies had come at him and was trying to shoot him. And all he had on him was a knife. They let off some shots. They missed. Everybody was running. CPD shows up. Torres gets arrested. Everybody else gets away. But because Torres didn't tell, he didn't snitch and say who the other people were. I mean, on Facebook, yeah, they were all talking about it. But he didn't tell CPD anything. So he ends up taking this charge. He had to go to court for it and everything. I don't remember what his punishment was. But that's his extent of his criminal record. He only has a couple that is, I think, 4 or 5 that was not criminal trespassing. And one was defending himself, that the CPD didn't believe him. He had no proof of it, whatever, since everybody ran away. And he wasn't snitching. All right. Now let's take a look at his victim's criminal record that starts out in March of 2014. Assault. May of 2015, assault. July of 2015, issue of a warrant. August of 2015, an armed robbery with a gun. September of 2015, theft, unauthorized control, more than 500, less than 10,000. And then February of 2017, robbery, armed robbery with the firearm. So majority of his charges, even though he had less charges, he got caught less times, they were violent charges. Now, I do remember the guys all picking at Torres and saying things like, man, I would have told on that bitch, whatever, Torres, you always getting busted. You need to learn how to run, things like that. That's why his criminal record looks the way it looks. But that's what all the news media and all social media, if you look it up, there's still posts all over Facebook. Look up Torres Catherine on Google. It'll take you to a Facebook post and people are talking all kinds of crap about. He should have never even been in the streets. He's been arrested that many times. Now, let me go read to you the one article that actually got it close to correct. Now, this is from February the 23rd of 2020. Loot crime escalates. Officials say avoiding Violence starts with staying aware of your surroundings and keeping your personal items in your pockets. Following last Monday's shooting that killed 24-year-old Edward Charleston and injured two others in the tunnel connecting the Jackson Red and the Blue Lines, police charged 23-year-old Torres Catherine on Friday. Catherine was found in Oak Park. The suspect has 22 prior arrests on his record, according to CPD News Affair Officer Howard Ludwig. Catherine was charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm. He is currently being held without bail at the Department of Corrections 9th Division, with his next hearing scheduled for February 25th, according to the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Liquid said Catherine and one of the victims had a prior dispute, an aggravated assault involving a knife on October the 14th of 2019. Our offender was the offender in that incident as well, Ludwig said, and our victim, we believe, perhaps recognized him from this earlier incident in October. Catherine and the victim saw each other, and that is when the incident broke out, according to Liquid. Catherine allegedly pulled out what the CPD believes to have been a 9mm handgun, and he fired shots at the group in the tunnel. Ludwig said security cameras in the tunnel showed a group of men seemingly following the offender. Dun, dun, dun. As they start to get close, the offender pulls out a gun and shoots several times, and victims from the opposite direction, as well as others in the tunnel at the time. So the scene kind of clears out, and then our offender returns to shoot one of the victims almost execution style. The shooting was the latest incident in the recent spike of violence occurrence across CTA stations throughout the city, some within the steps of the Paul Loops campus. Let's see, this goes on to some other stories. Yes. Let's see. And it gives some of the statistics. But let's face reality, folks. In October of 2019, this same group, according to what I saw on Facebook in real time, came at him with guns, firing them. That's what alerted CPD to come. Torres gets caught with the knife. Now we move forwards to February. So just a few months in the future, the same group, according to his friends on Facebook, that the incident took place in October was the same group, males and females, yes. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe one of them even had their child down there with them. Great mothering. But he was going down in the tunnel. He was going to be trapped. You corner somebody, what do you expect? Especially since he was armed this time. He started shooting at everybody. Now, this is something that I said back then, and I'll say it again. If it was me, I don't know what I would have done, but I do not hold it against him. And I even said this in the Facebook. You find that Facebook post, which is with the legal firm, scroll down in the comments. I left another comment today, but I left an older comment 6 years ago. I forgot I even left a comment. What do you expect him to do? You done pulled out a gun and you shot people. You've shot 3 people now. At this moment, they're all still alive. So, yeah, you're going to go away for aggravated battery. You don't know they got, friends in the Cook County or not, whatever, that type of thing, whatever. What you do know is this guy laying on the ground has already come at you twice now with a gun. You're going to make sure there's not going to be a third time. this guy comes back for you. I don't blame him for that. They try to make the victim sound like a goody-goody two-shoes. You saw his criminal record. He has more violent crimes than Torres does. Torres had, of those 20-something, he had umpteen of them was trespassing. Which means you ain't supposed to be over here in this neighborhood. We told you not to be in this neighborhood, and now you're in this neighborhood again.
That was probably Irene calling on him.
You ask yourself, what would you do? Now, comparing this and ALLSTAR, well, the difference is, of course, ALLSTARS is federal. This was state. The biggest difference is going to be Chicago versus Texas. Because again, Texas can be harsh. But Harris County has that overcrowding. I don't know, like I said, how the feds do it, because they send you away as far as the ways that they can send you. But they don't mind a revolving door. The difference also is, in Torres's case, these people had already tried to kill him once before, even though nobody believed him. It sounds to me, because of the plea deal they did, and because he sat there for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it was, before they finally went to trial with it, that they, dropped it down to second degree, that type of thing. In ALLSTAR's case, he was not armed. These guys came at him while he's minding his own business. And there are laws. I didn't look them up, but I know that there are laws because I've read them before. You can look them up. I'll let y'all do some homework once in a while. But there are laws that's state and federal laws that state there are exceptions to the rule if you are a felon in possession of a firearm. And it states, I believe it can't be your gun, but if there is a weapon there, a gun there, and you're in fear for your life and you're defending yourself, and you don't use the gun any longer than necessary as far as, you don't take the gun with you, run away with it, or whatever, which he didn't. He left it there. And like I said, with the half-assed decent attorney, as far as him coming back and forth, shooting some more, pistol whipping him, spitting on him, whatever, a half-assed good attorney can get him off on that part of it for adrenaline. For all this happening when you weren't expecting it, you were fear for your life. You went into survivor mode. That's what they call that. Just like these women, when the men's beating them up and they think that they're going to get killed, and then women end up killing the man, they get off on lesser charges because they went into survivor mode. And that's what I think we can expect to see in ALLSTAR Jr.'s trial, if it even makes it to trial. Now, I did catch some video somewhere, I think it was Instagram or something, I don't know where it was, anyway, where somebody's saying that he's going to snitch, or they're going to try to get him to snitch or something. What is there to snitch on? Everything was on footage. At least 3 different cameras. The paperwork already says this. Says dude was minding his own business, grabbed his girl, said, let's go to the elevator. I guess they going up to the room or whatever. I don't know if it was a hotel up top. I don't know what it was. and the guys came at him. Now, if these guys are also gang members, what they may end up doing is opening the door to themselves, because you can't snitch on somebody when cops already know who the victims are. Cops already know what the details of the incident that went down, what happened, because it's all on footage and they've already printed it up in the paperwork. They're only charging them with the one count of the felony being in possession of a firearm, and even the interstate commerce, they're combining it together in one count. And maybe they're doing this as far as, charging them this way, maybe because they feel like they got to charge them with something. They don't want to let them get away with everything scot-free. Because, again, I don't know what his criminal record looks like, but apparently he has a criminal record as well. I don't know. Does he got information that he can tell on other people? I don't know. Does he got things in his past where they can supersede this? I don't know. But putting those aside, for what he's looking at right now, I perceive that he's going to get a slap on the wrist. The taunting probably pissed the feds off. But hey, it is what it is. Dude needs to be happy he's alive. So, y'all let me know what y'all think.
All right, y'all. Put that down now, so we won't be blinded. I see you coming in late, Charlie's. This tablet here. So what do y'all think? I didn't know about that other charge that Torres had picked up. I kept checking back on his case, and he still didn't go to trial. And apparently he didn't go. His number didn't come up until 2024, so that was just a year and a half ago. But apparently he had a weapon while he was in county, so they tacked on 4 years to that. And they're going to make him run it back to back, it looks like. But I'm still laughing at the scary ass bloggers that was too scared to show the document correctly because they were scared that because it said it was sealed, when all they had to do was read it properly and they'd find out it wasn't sealed anymore once the arrest took place. It's all right. It's all right. I've been trying to keep my lives to about an hour long. I will tell y'all this. I was telling somebody else about it. The reason why I wanted to do the live this way was because the other night, last night, whatever it was, that I went live, I was live for an hour and had the same amount of people in the chat like I normally do, whatever. And it said that I think it said 40 something, either 47 or 52 views is what it gave me. Then I looked at the 11 minutes that I was live in Walmart before that on my cell phone. And I only had like 3-5 people in the chat every time I'd look down at the phone. Mind you, I was shopping and then the phone kept losing the signal and everything else, whatever. But for those 11 minutes, it gave me like 67 views or some shit like that. So for whatever reason, and this is why you'll see a lot of other channels go live from their cell phones and put it over their laptops or whatever. is because YouTube will give us more views. They will put it in the algorithm. And like, I think it was Baby Girl said at the very beginning of this live in the chat, she said, hey, I actually got my notification. YouTube actually sends out the notifications when it's going live from the damn cell phone, which makes it very prejudicial. Very prejudicial. It ain't right. Yeah, like I said, if I was in the position that Torres was in at that time, I done shot these people. I know I'm going away. I'm going to make sure this dude's not going to come at me a third time, because this is his second time coming at me. And you can also see how the difference, the CPD giving out information, different officers giving out different information to the news media, how, and even when they made their press release, nobody was confronting him. Nobody was doing nothing to him. But then when we read the one article from that was written from the PR person from the CPD, he states they followed him down in the tunnel. They confronted him about the knife fight that took place in October, that type of thing, whatever, you know. So that tells me they were aware that this shit did happen. Maybe that's another reason why they dropped the charges down to second degree. But like I said, he sat there for 4 years before they actually got to him. But all right, I'm gonna end this, and when I get in the house, I'm gonna look and see how many views and see how different it is, because it's about the same amount of time, about the same amount of people that we had with the live last night. And we're going to compare the numbers, because my numbers have got to get up. So far, none of my videos, none of my lives have gotten 1,000 views yet. And that's, I mean, total. As far as like the very first one I put out, it's had, what, 2 weeks now to get rewatched or to get watched by other people or whatever. It's still only got just a couple of 100 views on it. I ain't going to get nowhere like this. And my subscribers is almost at 500, I think, but then it slowed down because I was getting like 30, 40 a day. And then now I'm getting like 3 or 5 a day. So I need you guys' help. I appreciate the ones that have been helping, but I need you guys' help with this. I'm pushing it out there on all the social medias that I can push it out there to Facebook, to Reddit, different things like that. I got 2 different subreddits that I put it in. But if y'all put it in, even if it's in the same platform, y'all got people looking at y'all stuff that don't look at my stuff. So it'll still get put out there. All right, y'all have a safe one. We're going inside. It's got to be like 1 o'clock by now. Yeah, because it says we've been live 1 hour and 2 minutes. So, and I will catch y'all on the flip side. Y'all take care.